So I recently did my first solo run speed run of Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and while this is actually the first time I don't have a script for a video, at least for a discussion kind of based video like this, but I did want to kind of go over kind of the key moments in this Mega Charizard Y solo run speedrun, and I guess important factors that impacted the run itself. And I'm doing this without a script because I did recently stream this yesterday as of when I'm recording this video right now, so everything is still fresh in my head, so I pretty much remember everything, and I would like to at least try to see if I can explain everything that went on for this run. So this was originally supposed to be a race with me and my friend who was using Mega Charizard X, and he was playing Alpha Sapphire while I was playing Omega Ruby. So for Mega Charizard X, we assumed would be significantly faster because it doesn't have any 4x weaknesses, and it can just and it gets some pretty powerful moves with just the Tough Claws boost. However, we also assumed that Mega Charizard X would be faster because Mega Charizard Y has the Drought ability, and while it's an amazing ability, every single time you send out the Pokemon, the Drought gets set up, and that can waste time, especially when you're trying to do a speedrun. While I'm not an actual speedrunner myself, I'm just doing this just for fun, and I'm also playing the game at 3x speed, so most of this is kind of fake solo run that can't really be, or not solo run, speed run that can't really be counted or compared to actual speed runs, because the final time I did get for Mega Charizard Y is actually only like a few minutes faster than world record for Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, but the world record doesn't play at 3x speed, so they also don't have Mega Charizard Y for it. So the only reason why I did Mega Charizard Y is for Project S, and what Project S is a Google Sheet document that I have that basically keeps track of every single solo run done, every single Pokemon that's been done for a solo run, by whether it's a YouTuber, someone on Discord, someone on Reddit, stuff like that. Been just keeping it all in track using a Google Doc. And I decided I wanted to try and fill out some of the gaps while I'll play Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and wanted to play sped up because otherwise it'd take way too long for each run, and I was hoping that I could get as many runs done as possible. And so I decided to choose one of the shorter games, being Ores, and most likely I'll be probably touching upon X and Y at some point. And I'm also very familiar with the game Ores since I've made my own ROM hack for it. But anyways, that is a pretty long introduction. I don't want to make this too much of an introduction, but this first solo run speedrun would be a great basis for compared times from all my next few runs. But the big part about Mega Charizard Y is the Drought sets up. The Droughts waste time each time you send it in. However, there's an important thing about Mega Charizard Y is that its water weakness is significantly lower, at least when the sun is up. You still have the big weaknesses like rock and I guess also electric, which only comes into play for one main gym, obviously Watson, but that's not too big of a deal. I only got stopped a few times. The main I guess roadblocks during this run was Roxanne, because obviously she uses rock types, and I'm 4x speed to rock, and Mega Charizard Y also has a lower defense stat than I think it's around 70 something, so it does not take rock type moves quite well as compared to physical rock type moves as compared to just anything else. So For that, I kind of just had to do a bunch of training because at level 17, Mega Charizard, or just Charizard in general, gets to move Dragon Rage, which is it's guaranteed to do 40 damage each time, and since it's early game, it's guaranteed to one-shot every single Pokemon. So that was the main way of beating Roxanne, and I did waste a couple of time having to fight every single trainer to train up my level, but overall we still beat it pretty quickly. And also a huge thing about Mega Charizard is that Drought is so strong with its insane special attack to the point that we were actually able to one-shot Pokemon that resisted us. For example, I think for one of the May rival fights, she had a Wailmer and the Slugmine. I think we literally just flame bursted or whatever move we had at the time, and it just one shot. If not for that fight, it might have also been for Flannery, because when we fought Flannery, she had a Torkoal that we also just kind of one shot using flame burst, and it was kind of silly. You know, she has all these powerful fire types, and her own strategy in the gym is to set up Sunny Day and go for overheat, but instead we can just one shot her Pokemon since we already set the sun up ourselves, and Mega Charizard Y is just so incredibly powerful. And I think the main reason why this run kind of ended up pretty fast for what I consider. It's hard to tell when this is the only solo run speed run I've done so far, but I want to say this is going to be one of the fastest times due to Mega Charizard being able to just one-shot most Pokemon that it comes up against. So most of the time I'd be trying to skip any trainers I can. If not, I literally just one-shot all of their Pokemon, bam bam bam, done. In addition to also knowing how to play the game. I think the main thing slowing down are obviously the few trainers that would constantly defeat us and make it incredibly hard to progress, but that's just mainly the main roadblocks were Roxanne, Watson, and then Drake in the Elite Four. That was also a huge wall for me, and it took me a really long time to beat him. Wallace I only lost once too, but that's not too important. For Watson, the main issue was his Magnemite has sturdy, and that means no matter how strong I am, it's never guaranteed to one-shot it. And for gym leaders, when they see their Pokemon's in the red, they give them potion, so it restores the Magnemite to full HP, which means that another hit won't one-shot it as well, which means it takes around 3 hits unless I start off with a different move other than a fire move that brings it down to 1 HP. But the big issue about the Magnemite is it goes for Thunder Wave turn 1, and being paralyzed is not very fun when it causes you to be outsped by most Pokemon, and especially when all the opponent Pokemon have moves that deal too much damage. In this case, Watson's Pokemon all have Volt Switch, and despite being a fully evolved Pokemon, Volt Switch was just doing way too much damage to the point where potions were not enough to out heal it. So if I got paralyzed, it was kind of GG for that fight. So all I had to do was hope that I didn't get paralyzed, or just be significantly higher level to tank it, or just outspeed even paralyzed. But that was just one of the main threats. Norman was actually insanely easy because believe it or not, you can one-shot Slacking with a sun boosted flame burst from Mega Charizard Y. Overheat does as well, but that's obvious. Winona was an issue, although Altaria, I think, if I remember correctly, it took a few turns, but it wasn't too big of a deal. And if there was any preparation or like sidetracking for specific TMs, there really wasn't any, because for Mega Charizard Y, the only move it needs to go out of the way for is Solar Beam, and Solar Beam is located in the Safari Zone after you beat Winona, and the main reason, obviously, for Solar Beam is so you can hit Rock type and Water type Pokemon, which are Charizard's kind of biggest weaknesses. And then eventually, at the Cave of Origin, you can get the Earthquake TM, which is great for, while it's not Mega Charizard's strongest stat, its physical attack isn't the worst, and mainly it was kind of to deal with electric types, or it was just kind of there just in case I needed it, if the opposing Pokemon had really good special defense, or if it was just something 4 times weak to ground, something like Macargo, which which the rival has, but I think it wasn't too big of an issue once I got Solar Beam anyways. It was still insanely strong, but it's just kind of a nice coverage move to have. And then once you get Overheat from Flannery, it just means that every single time the opponent only has one Pokemon left, I can just press Overheat and it usually just one-shots because it's such a strong move, because Charizard already does so much damage on its own, but when you give it like the strongest fire type move, it's just almost guaranteed to just one shot. And what's it? Yeah, so Charizard starts off with Ember, which is obviously it's a weak fire type move, but with Sun boosted, stab, and from a Mega Charizard with like 130 base special attack, it really does a lot. And then eventually level 32 you get Flame Burst, and that is around I think Flannery or Norman, right about in between them, a little before. And once you get that is a huge power spike. And then once you reach level 47, which I believe if I remember correctly that was for Wallace, I had Flamethrower. Flamethrower is just obviously his strongest fire move. You just spam that and you can pretty much one shot everything to a certain extent, though later in the game obviously I utilized Solar Beam for any Pokemon that could that would have been better to take the Solar Beam. And I guess the biggest wall, okay, also I guess I should have mentioned Liza and Tate. You probably wondered how I did against that, and that I had Solar Beam right before then, but the main issue of that gym was there's two Pokemon. I can only take out one Pokemon at a time, and that means they have a chance to click Rock Slide, and that could potentially one-shot me. However, there were that never actually happened in my gym fight. So what I did was I took out Solrock with Solar Beam, and then the Lunatone went for Calm Mind, and I was able to just one-shot it at the second turn as well. If there was anything that could have happened is that Lunatone would press Rock Slide, but the reason why I saved it for last to kill is because it has a higher special attack and lower physical attack. So even if it did go for Rock Slide, I think I would have tanked it, because there's also the spread damage nerf. So if you were to use a spread move like Rock Slide, Earthquake, Blizzard, and it hits multiple Pokemon at the same time, its damage will be reduced to 0.7 for each Pokemon. That's just a slight spread move nerf. And so even if I did get hit by Rock Slide, there was a chance I think I would have just lived on really low HP. And if there's any other big things to talk about before the Elite Four, it would be Team Magma. Since I am doing Omega Ruby, I'm going up against obviously Camerupt and Fire types. The main issue about Camerupt is it has Rock Slide, but during this entire game, it never actually had enough damage to kill me. Each time I went for Rock Slide, it'd bring me down to low yellow or red, but it was never enough to kill me. And the Flamethrower for me was a 2-hit KO at the very least. The big part about the Elite Four was Drake, obviously. Big problem with him is that the dragon types, they all resist fire, and since the Elite Four, they all have 5 Pokemon, there's only so many turns that my drought can be up and give me my insanely powerful boosted moves. He starts off with Altaria, which is impossible for me to one-shot. It's always a 2-hit KO, which means I'm already using 2 of the 5 turns of Sun up. And then he has 2 Flygongs, which is also an issue. One of the issues is that Flygon does not get one-shot by Solar Beam, unless I'm a high enough level. If I'm not high enough level, which the first time I went in, I was not, Solar Beam does not kill. So that also... I think I don't even remember the first time if it did one shot or not, but either way, Flygon was an issue. But after you take down the first Flygon, he brings out Kingdra, and pretty much at that point, the Sun will disappear, and you won't have a Sun to reduce the water type damage from Kingdra. Also, a big issue with Kingdra is it goes for Yong, so it puts you to sleep. So even if you kill it somehow, it puts you to sleep, and then he sends out another Flygon afterwards. And the main problem with the second Flygon is that even though it goes for special moves like Boom Burst, it sometimes goes for Screech. And the first time I got to the second Flygon and went for Screech before I killed it, which meant that the Salamence that came in just one-shotted me with Dragon Rush. But eventually I had to go through this whole Elite Four over and over and over, constantly losing to Drake, but each time I was gaining more and more levels. So by the time I beat him, I was around level 71. So that at that point I was easily one-shotting Pokemon that I wasn't able to one-shot before. Yeah, I guess I was also just able to just take out the Salamence no problem on the final attempt. Though I actually did have to go back and re-beat Drake after beating him once, because Steven has an Aggron, and Aggron is an issue because it has the move Head Smash. The problem with Aggron as well is it has the ability Sturdy, so no matter how much damage I do, it'll always live on 1 HP, and it is incredibly hard to live a Head Smash, or it might have been Head Smash or Stone Edge, one or the other, but it is incredibly hard to live that from an Aggron. So all I could do to beat Steven there is finally use X items for the first time. I bought X items after a few attempts of the Elite Four because I was getting kind of desperate, because I knew my time was being ruined from me losing over and over and over, and also I had limited items because obviously if you're using one Pokemon throughout the Elite Four, you're fighting 30 I know, actually, sorry, around 25 Pokemon, right? And you only have so much PP for it, and Flamethrower only has 15 PP. So I was using Leopard Berries to restore it, and since this was a speedrun, I didn't have time to replant Leopard Berries to get more. So my only option was just collect Leopard Berries that you find on some of the routes, and then that's all you get for the remainder of the game. And since I was losing over and over, each time I went into the Elite Four, I had to consume one Leopard Berry by the time I get to Drake, because for everything before, there's 15 Pokemon right before Drake, and each time I just spam Flamethrower most of the time, because I think for some of the Pokemon I would use Solar Beam, so it wasn't constantly using Flamethrower, but that was still my best move. And at some point I was getting really worried because I was running out of Leopard Berries, and if I run out of Leopard Berries, it basically become really impossible to beat the Elite Four. So on my second attempt against Steven, I set up X defense on the Skarmory to +6 defense, and that way, and I just full restore whenever he uses Toxic on me. And you doing it like that meant I can live Aggron, I guess anything else, but anything else afterwards kind of just died. Even though there was no sun up, it was still easy to just kind of one-shot everything, other than Cradily, which Cradily hit me with an ancient power, but Mega Charizard Y does have a decent special defense, so I was able to tank it from the Cradily, and we were able to just finally beat Steven at a time of 2 hours 36 minutes and 10 seconds, which is crazy fast if you think about it. You know, the world record speedrun is like 2 hours 50 something minutes, but obviously we were playing at 3 times speed, so the in-game time was around 7 hours something. But this does definitely gives a nice I guess starting points, so everything we can compare with afterwards is it faster, is it slower? I would assume that most Pokemon are going to be much slower than Charizard Y, but it depends on what I choose for my next few runs. First, I'm trying to get all the Gen 1 Megas done as solo run speedruns, and then I'll see what I want to do afterwards, whether I want to do randomized Pokemon or cherry pick specific Pokemon that I think would be fun to solo run with, or something that I just want to go fast with to try and get a really good time. We'll see. So this was, you know, how I beat, or my solo run speedrun experience with Mega Charizard Y. I wanted to see if this would be a good way to go about it. I don't know if I'm just going about it without a script. It's kind of just me yapping a little too much, but we'll see how it goes, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day.